Okay folks, back to messing with the Duramax a little bit. I've actually got one battery in it, got jumper cables on it. I've searched through these wires, make sure there's nothing giving any trouble. We're going to try to start it. I don't know if it's going to start or not, but maybe we'll try it. We got it spinning over and let's see what it does. Okay, so it tried to start, so let me see if I can get, I don't know if you're going to hear it or not, but I'm going to pump up the fuel pump some more right here. And it hasn't been started in about 2 years as far as I can tell. Well, it's solid now. Right. Give her another try. We're going to let her charge again. It'd be nice if I'd have had 2 batteries, but side posts are kind of rare around here. Alright, we'll let her sit here a little bit and see what'll happen. Okay, so I'm going to try to trace through some of these wires. I think there's an oil pressure switch or something down here that may be our culprit. The wiring is not nearly as bad as I thought it was. So I'll show you what I had done. Down here, it looks much worse than it is. Right here is a plug that was going down that I unplugged because I didn't want the wires crossing. But, you know, all this crusty, underneath this crusty is good wires. Same way with this. There's no wires burnt under them covers. It just looks really bad. So I think what I'm going to do is take this inner fender well out because it's going to be replaced anyway. And we're going to be able to see a whole lot more what's going on. See what's going on, why this thing's not... It kicked over a couple times, so I mean, it's almost like it's not getting fuel, but it may have a sensor on oil pressure. Because I remember James had said something about the switch being on this side, and I'm not familiar with him, but I will find out. But let me go ahead and get this cover out of here, and we'll go from there. Alright folks, just like I expected or suspected, we don't have much problems under here really. It just looks bad. It burned all the covers. I mean, there's really nothing. Yeah, I can't believe that. So we got ABS wires, not an issue. We can take care of that. Now we just got to figure out where this is going. Is this the 4-wheel drive switch? Reason it may not be starting, there's a big puddle of oil under this thing where that drive shaft has hit that, the oil filter. So I've got to run and grab an oil filter and get on this thing and get some more oil back in it. But as you can see, these wires underneath here, there's nothing wrong with them. I mean, I'm going to look them over really well and make sure there's nothing that's up to the metal, but I don't see an issue. So we're going to trace these 4 and find out where they go. And for something that looked so bad, I just don't see no damage. I mean, this looks bad and then it's just a cover over it. I think we're going to get out of this thing a lot better than I thought. So let me see if I can get a filter on this thing, get some oil back in it, and we'll trace them 4 wires and see what they are. It didn't hurt them up at this end. We're going to peel all this back and replace it and retape and make sure there's nothing that's going to give any issues. But I'm not seeing any problems. I'm really amazed. Sometimes you get lucky. Okay, so we'll get these. I'm not too worried about ABS wires right now because I know that's not anything that is an issue. We're going to figure out this out and then we'll get the filter. let's do that and we'll go from there. All right. Okay, folks, hopefully you can see I got the filter on. There's the front. There's where it beat on the side of the transmission. I don't see anything else broke or hurt. I don't like that around that drain plug, so we might have to, we'll keep that in mind. In other words, we'll work on that. I think now we can get some oil in it and see maybe if we can get it started. We'll see what happens. All right. Okay, so we got these wires taped up and back in place where they're supposed to be. Got our oil filter on. Got a new wire hooked to our, this is our low oil sending unit. And then we've got an oil pressure unit up there, oil pressure switch. And we've got it hooked up. Got a new wire on it. I just happen to have a harness on an old engine that I had laying. I bought 2 core engines from the junkyard that was laying in a pile. And that's what them are off of. Then I ended up using an oil pressure switch because the switch that was on it, I wasn't able to, I'll show it to you in a minute, but you couldn't plug it back in. So now all I have to do is ground this wire and then get them hooked up top where they need to be. And that's going to solve the issue with the oil pressure gauge and the low oil warning light. And I think that's it for that. Now, that was what was causing it not to start. All right, I'll show you. Okay, here's the oil sending unit that was on it, and you can see it was melted around the end. And I had a few of them, and here's another one. This is a good one, so you can see what it's supposed to look like. So we had to replace it. So, but I had it. I had a couple of them. I actually had one that looked like it was brand new that somebody had put on, so we used it. Okay, up here. Looks like a mess, but it's really not. I've got these. It's actually 5 wires running up from our oil sending unit and our low oil pressure switch. Okay, again, we've got our ABS wires, and then this is a 4-wire harness that goes from here down across the top of the front end and over to the solenoid on the 4-wheel drive unit. Now, I'm sure what happened is this was in 4-wheel drive, I'm assuming, and this is what caused the fire. And I checked, and the fuse is actually blown for the 4-wheel drive, which is a good thing because our wires were bare anyway. So we've got it unplugged right here. So all we have to do is get another harness, plug it in. It goes 4 wires from here over to the other side of the front end, and that's it. And like I said, ABS wires, and that's all. Everything else is pretty much taken care of. You know, all of this was just discolored, but was just covered. Got a few little spots we're going to go through. You can see where there's a wire that's bare here, and them are not. So it didn't hurt it bad at all. Nothing like you would think it would. So that's all taken care of. All right, let's start it up. There we go. Runs really nice and quiet. No noise, no extra noise, nothing like that. Light still up? Okay, you see these 5 wires here that are unhooked, or cut. This is our harness that runs down to the oil sending unit and the oil pressure, or the low oil switch. So that's where that runs to now. We're going to reroute these wires. They had them run down around where you couldn't get to them. I can't stuff them back through there without taking the power steering pump off and all that, so we're not going to do that. We are going to just rerun them, make sure that they're nowhere near the, you know, the steering or anything like that, and we'll mount them down and take care of that. Now, we had another issue. Couldn't get it in park. The shifter wasn't working, and the cable wasn't strong enough to push it into park. And the problem with that, okay, this is the NSBU switch. Electric here. Now, a couple years after that, they put it inside the transmission, but this one's on the side, and what happened is that drive shaft actually hit the stud coming out of the transmission for the shifter and bent it. Took all this off and apart and actually made a tool. I actually used a 12mm socket, and I slid this over it to bend it and actually straightened it out And once I got it where, when I turned it, you know, you could really tell it was good and straight. Then I put it back together and it's working fine now. So we've got all our forward gears and reverse and all that good stuff. So we've got that straightened out. And I pulled the drive shaft out and I'll show you what we've got on it. Okay, so here's our yoke that come apart. I don't see any problems there. I didn't see any dents in it. I did see the fact that this joint was coming apart up here too, the front part. So we'll take care of that while we're at it. New joint that in, new joint this in, and then of course we'll change out the differential. So that's going to be the next thing we do. But besides that, it's fixed. Start it back up, Donna. We'll start it one more time here. Headlight out. Cold AC, I really like it. Now, we can't depend on the four-wheel drive stuff, and it says service four-wheel drive. And ABS lights on, of course, and check engine light. We'll get all that taken care of. We still haven't got my oil pressure, my oil sending unit hooked up. Now, I know it's got pressure because it was pumping out of the filter hard. So we're not, you know, too worried about that right now. So I still got to run them wires. But for the little bit of time I worked on it, it has come a long ways. So this will be a good running driving truck here real soon. I wasn't going to do this project, but not yet. But you know, it's a lot nicer to have something that you can move around. And this thing has been, it's going to be sitting in one spot, and I really need to get it where I can start it moving around. So I don't have a lot of room here, as you can see. All right. Worst part's going to be cleaning it out. My wife got started on it. So, anyway, here's what we got. Until I cut these four wires, you can see the plug right here. But until I cut these four wires, this thing wouldn't start because they were grounding out on each other because of the wires being stripped like they were from being burnt. But as soon as I cut them, then it fired up. So that was all we needed to do there. Now, you can probably see what I'm talking about. You know, it ain't really not hurt at all. It's just the coating on the outside. So we'll rewrap all of them and probably use the same stuff back on it. And I don't reckon we're going to change that. I'm not worried about it. The reservoir we may change. Brakes work good, but I know that after burning it can get brittle, and I don't need it cracking and start leaking, so we may change that. Alright, so hopefully the batteries will stay up in it. If they will, we'll leave them in it. That one looks pretty new. I don't know much about it, but it's kind of a junk car. Got lucky that it was a side post top of it. So, anyway, alright, so the next thing will be Monday. I think hopefully I can go pick up the differential for it, and we'll get that finished, get the wiring finished up on it, and should have this at least able to drive down the road in, you know, the next few days anyway. All right, appreciate everybody watching, and until next time, bye.